bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you in the sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this week's Children of Éarte. I am not Deborah Ann Woll, but I am going to kind of facilitate things here this evening. Deborah had a scheduling conflict, and so we decided to get together, as we have done, I think, only one other time, and do a Q&A session. So everyone is going to be able to ask questions. And speaking of that, you can do that starting now. We have our magical demibot. We affectionately call it demibot, that is crawling chat. And so all you have to do to ask a question is type the word question and then follow that by the question itself. And we're going to collect all of those, and we will get to them. I see one of them has come in right now. It's not a question. Somebody's trying to cheat. But you can ask those questions right now. I saw a real question come in just then. So thank you very much for that. And you can keep asking those questions all along the way. And we are going to introduce ourselves as we normally do. But first, before I do that, in this introduction time, it's time for you to think of questions too. So we're going to let the questions bank up here a little bit, or we can start digging in after introductions. But first, I'm going to talk about our sponsors. Thank you very much, Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, for your continued support. You can grab an Electrum chest code on the overlayer bouncing around in chat. We also have Die Hard Dice. And we're going to give away a $20 gift discount code, something you put in at checkout, I think, to get $20 off your order. So good luck on that one too. And they have supplied our cast with, we're going to go down the list here. So this is going off of the player characters now and moving into some NPCs. So they have supplied our cast with Ivy's Icy Icons. Ivy's icons.
Hey.
That's
thank you for that, Die Hard Dice. And you can also use the code Éarte to get 10% off an order at that store. And finally, tonight, you will not hear the dulcet tones of Siren. But when we play, you will hear the dulcet tones of Sirenscape, because epic games need epic sound. And
what I'm hearing is you got to ask epic questions, because epic questions need epic sound.
That's exactly right. You can ask epic questions, or we do have a professional oboist. Hope knows how to sing. Maybe Alicia can beatbox. Can you beatbox?
Kind of, sort of, kind of, yeah.
Get something going here to get a little bit of a musical accompaniment tonight. But otherwise, we will be back next week for a regular episode. Well, let's be honest, no episode that we do is regular, but we will be back for a play episode next week, and Sirenscape will be fully featured when we come to that. So thank you so much for our sponsors. I'm Adam Bradford. I'm the CDO at Demiplane. So many fun things going on. We are coming up on Gen Con. So Gen Con is happening. Let's see. I don't leave this week. I leave next week for Gen Con. And at that show, we are going to be having a grand old time in the Avatar Legends room that is going to be right off the show floor. You're going to see Avatar Legends Nexus featured in that room, and you can come and meet the Demiplane team all weekend there at Gen Con. It's going to be an awesome place. You don't want to miss that. If you don't do anything else at Gen Con, you need to make sure after you get done walking the show floor that you head over to that Avatar Legends room. Be sure to check that out, and you might see me there. Or if you see me walking down the street, the reason I go to these shows is to meet people. So don't ever feel embarrassed or shy or anything like that. Flag me down. I would love to see you and say hello. All right. That's me. Tonight I am not playing, but typically I play Silas Sorrell, your dimensionally displaced magical superfan.
Yay. Hey, everybody. I don't have much of a voice left, so I'm going to be talking really low. Probably a good thing for all of your ears anyway. My name is Alicia Marie, and you can find me on the socials at Alicia Marie Body. I am a professional costume artist and RPG performer, and I've had the wildest San Diego Comic-Con. For me, this season has been really intense, but I'm really happy. As you can tell, my voice pretty much tells the story of what happened this weekend. We had an awesome time as a crew in San Diego doing the live show. So hope you guys tune into the VOD because then it'll be exciting tonight. Oh, and I'm also getting ready for Gen Con. Tonight, I'm not playing Fairuza. I'm playing myself, literally and figuratively. I played myself. Oh, God.
Hello, I am Jen Kretchmer. You can find me on socials as @DreamWisp. I stream on Twitch as DreamWispJen. Please forgive me if my video and audio are out of sync. It's over 100 degrees in Los Angeles, and it is wrecking my setup. So I apologize for that. I will be remotely zooming into Gen Con on the 3rd at 11 a.m. Eastern for the Accessibility in Gaming panel. So that will be fun. And we are launching officially Dreams and Machines. It comes out at Gen Con. Yay! Please check it out. It's really, really exciting. I'm very proud of that world and the things that are in it. It was a lot of fun to work on. And tonight I will not be playing, but I will be talking about your friendly neighborhood troublemaker, Maeve Morgan Flynn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Urban. I'm the content manager at Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, and you can find me on the socials as Obo Lauren. I also had quite a lot of fun at San Diego. I'm very much excited about tomorrow, which I've been talking about a little bit now. We're in episode 5 of The Velvet Lodge, which comes out every Wednesday on the Elder Eye Entertainment channel. So if you would like to see me playing a character that is very different than Neb, go check it out. Also, you should check it out because Lucia is the DM or the storyteller, and she is absolutely incredible. And so watch if only for her, but watch the whole thing because the whole thing is awesome. Yeah, and tonight I will be holding on to Neb's rock.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hope LaVelle. You can follow me on the socials at the Hope LaVelle. You can watch me as a dungeon master on Misfits of Alceta every Wednesday. And tonight I will not be playing Miss Robin Beckett, your favorite granny for hire.
I would love to, start a pool on how many questions about old professions for Robin.
Oh no!
Come up here tonight. We'll see what we get. There was one other thing that I wanted to share before we jump into questions to let those questions keep kind of banking up here. But we had some exciting news that we haven't actually shared anywhere else other than the lucky folks that got to join us there at San Diego Comic-Con. But I've been working with Deborah for a little while, and we are actually, we kind of asked this question from the beginning as this show materialized into what would this look like if, viewers and fans out there might want to play in a similar type of world for their own games at home. And so really excited to share. We don't have a ton of details yet, but excited to share that we are going to be producing a Children of Éarte primer for the Veil, essentially.
Yay!
That is going to cover a variety of different things that are going on in the Veil. It's going to, you might see the statistics for various creatures that our characters have encountered, and some possibly that we didn't encounter because we went left instead of right. But that is going to be content that is going to be coming your way. It's actually going to be freely accessible. So it's going to be hosted on Demiplane's 5e Nexus when that comes. Don't start beating down the door yet. This is probably coming out, the early part of next year. So, we've got to go make the thing. But we have, decided to move forward with that project, and we're really excited about what that means. means. There's going to be the other thing I'm really excited about is the concept of what has been put together here with the veil between the worlds, is that this could be a nice side trek for your own campaigns where you find yourself in this place, and there's going to be advice about how to play characters from our world, or a world that looks like our world, that somehow get sucked into a D&D style world or a D&D campaign. And so if you've ever wanted to kind of start out as Deborah has put it, first level commoners, if you wanted to start out that way and then get kind of pulled into this, there will be some, game mastering advice, player advice for how you might make that feel at your own table. So really excited about that supplement that is going to be coming out at some point, probably in the early half of next year. And we will keep you posted with more details as we have them. All right, let's jump into some questions.
Let's do it. Let's party.
So first of all, here we go. We've got, if Neb could be an Idle Champions familiar, what would they be?
Wow, just putting everything about me all together, all in one question.
That's it.
A familiar. Okay, so for those who are not Idle Champions folk, familiars are the little... They're usually a creature that you get in the game that help you, that click on things and things. They tend to be creatures, but we also have all sorts of random wacky things, especially as we've gotten into space, into stuff in Spelljammer. Part of me says go with Nebrat because that's the first thing she transformed into, but there's already 3 rats in the game. Okay. Sorry, Alicia. I'm gonna say the spider version of her because first off, there isn't any spiders, but 2, I love the idea of making something that is usually very disturbing or scary look cute. And if there's one thing I know about our artists is they can either make anything look adorable or anything look horrifying. They're very good at opposite ends of the spectrum. So I could hand them a blue jumping spider, which is already kind of adorable, and say, make this so adorable that even people who don't like spiders will want to get this familiar. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say spider.
That's a good answer.
It's an arachnid.
Well,
That's good.
Winner.
How did we not think about that before? Thank you, Jen.
Because there's no pressure tonight.
That's true. But thank
it.
you for asking. That'd be actually kind of fun. Is getting Neb in as a familiar.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Ashelon 6023. How was the SDCC game? So first of all, I want to say that Jen and we missed Maeve. Looking forward to doing it again where we can have everybody. The chances, as we've all played D&D for a long time collectively here, we know that the chances of getting everybody together in person are pretty hard. But we are going to keep trying to make that happen at some point. But definitely missed you. But the way we'll do this one, maybe, because I don't want to jump into spoilers too much because we'll have a VOD coming out at some point. So I'm going to go around to the rest of the cast that was able to participate and just maybe give, a one word or a phrase maybe of, how you felt the SDCC game went. And I'll go first, and I'm going to keep talking for just another second to give you a second to think about what that word or that phrase is, since I've had the luxury of doing it for the last, 90 seconds when you didn't have that luxury. And I can keep talking forever, honestly, if I really wanted to. So maybe you've had long enough now, but what I will start with on the SDCC game is I will use the word or phrase here of fittingly appropriate. And the slight commentary that I would say there is that anytime that you do something that is off the beaten path or maybe not part of the core story, there's a chance of it being completely superfluous, that it doesn't matter at all, or there's the opposite side of that of it's required viewing or whatever. And I honestly thought that it just came out in such a good way where, like when they make a cartoon episode that sits alongside a movie or something, you absolutely don't have to watch it. So if you don't get access to the VOD, you forget about it or whatever, it's not essential to the story that we're telling in the core campaign. But I think that if you enjoy these characters, it is a really appropriate sidetrack and can kind of flesh out the world a little bit more. All right, Hope, what about you?
Okay, if I have to keep it short, I'm just gonna say beautiful chaos.
It really was. And I think that our couple of guests, so we had Gabe Hicks and Michelle Wynn Bradley joining the cast, and they certainly contributed to that beautiful chaos.
They were amazing.
Those two are beautiful chaos embodied. 100%.
Absolutely. What about you, Lauren?
I don't know how to say this slowly, but I'm going to jump off of that, which was Gabe Hicks, who is chaos embodied and a fey creature. The rest of us were so chaotic, he had to be the mom.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Seriously.
Yeah, you should check it out. I said it wasn't required viewing for the story. I didn't say it wasn't required viewing for, everything that you see that went on there. So it's good. It's great stuff. What about you, Alicia?
I would have to say it was just insane chemistry. Sorry about my voice, but it's we play so well together online. You could worry, or you can certainly think, though, what if they meet in person and the chemistry is different, or they just don't gel as well? Like you wonder, and I was like, I wonder how we're going to be when we're in person. It was like everything. So one of my family members came to San Diego Comic-Con with me and went to a bunch of my actual plays, and she was like that one. It was completely different. Everybody was on point. It just gelled. She said she had something to say about everybody at the table. And she was like, everybody in the audience was like, this is hysterical. And I was trying to explain to her, I was like, it's when you have table chemistry that you just can't do that. It actually has to be there,
Everything gelled so well, especially me fearing for my life pretty consistently with an axe swinging by my head with a high level of frequency. So yeah, it was really great. It was really great. So I did get to see the axe though. So, and I got to hold it even. So yeah, it was great. All right, let's jump in. This might be a hard one, and obviously cast members, if you don't want to answer any of parts of these questions or whatever, say no comment, completely within your rights to do so. So please remember that, but we'll see on this one. Cassius 335, has Alicia been following the Big B's news? Soon Barbarian Path of Giants will be a real boy.
Wait, repeat that again.
Okay, so has Alicia been following the Big B's news, which is, I guess the upcoming supplement is called Big B's something, Big B's toaster oven or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Soon,
what?
I don't know. They just come up with, insert proper noun here and then something after it. Soon Barbarian Path of Giants will be a real boy, which I'm assuming means that it will no longer be Unearthed Arcana. So I didn't know if you have a comment to that, because that's also somebody making some assumptions there.
Yes,
perhaps.
It is. We don't know what Fairuza's turning. We know she's barbarian, but we don't know what path she's taken yet. People, although guesses are good. Guesses are actually encouraged in this show, but we don't want to reveal things that might actually derail the story a little bit, because also, we may have things to add that might change your mind. But I do keep up with the different changes and additions that they're adding to 5e, because things are interesting right now. And every day D&D Beyond has come up with something that's kind of cool that could actually work for our characters. So like we said, a long time ago, we came up with our character ideas, but they were all could be subject to additions and changes.
So I love that. The idea is the priority is to capture the feel of the character, and allow mechanics to fit that instead of the other way around.
Also, I love that Big B's littlest toaster is now going to be the next supplement that's coming out. What was that animated movie, The Brave Little Toaster?
Yep.
The little red. Am I that old? That nope. Okay. So I think Jen.
As long as they credit me, that's fine. But yeah, I think that a little bit more on that one. I love the guesses too, and one of the things that I can say is that having seen some of the elements of all of our characters, I don't know if any of our characters are what we will, we definitely have some Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King in there. Nothing is completely vanilla WoW. Like I think that everybody's got some customized things here or there. And, honestly, I love it because it does take on the feel that almost all of my home games have over the years, which is, again, we're just trying to capture a character here.
Yes.
And it's okay if you, walk along that. And especially with us being, from this world and arriving in this other world, I don't think, there's a way to really capture that without being able to have some of that homebrew and some of that customization in place.
One of the things that I sort of struggled with for a minute was, I have this barbarian, and barbarians are a certain thing, like they're tanks, they're just heavy hitters. But because I wanted to make her more into a specific type of character, I was like, as we leveled up, do I want to just make her stronger, or do I want to throw a couple cantrips in there that I can add with feats? I'm able to add with a little. Even though it's not really optimal to give barbarians spells because they can't cast spells if they're raging. So, but I thought to myself, there's some flavor I want to add to her strength. So I'm going to have to throw a couple spells in there. She is not meant to be a mage. But that's why you might notice there are certain things that she's able to do. It's because I decided to flavor her barbarian, which is something I never do. I always make my barbarians just, here's the hammer, there's your face kind of thing. This is different. She's a different one.
All right, we got FA. I think it's Fallen Angel, Ridian. Has Maeve told Fairuza that they work, or at least did, at the same law firm off screen? And does Maeve think she still has a job since she never did tell anyone at work where she was going?
So no, Maeve has not told Fairuza that they work at the same place. That has not yet happened. I have been keeping that one in my pocket for the right moment. Maeve still having a job. I think Maeve sort of assumes nobody noticed that she's gone missing because her job is so low level, even though it's a high level firm. I think Maeve generally thinks she can sort of just slip in and out of different situations. She's avoided responsibility so much that she kind of thinks, I'll show up when I can, or when I feel like it. And I think she's good enough at her job or proficient enough to get by, that people, it's worth it to keep her around. It's worth it to keep her on the payroll, because she's competent enough at her job when she's there. But when she's not, her job is not so important that anyone's going to really pay attention to the fact that she's missing. That's what she thinks. Whether that's what her boss thinks is a different story.
Nice. All right. Let's see. For Maverick 2, what has been Robin's shortest profession? It's a tough one.
It's actually not.
Oh.
Robin worked one day as the front desk operator at a dog shelter. And the reason it was only one day is because by the end of the day, she walked out with every single dog. and she knew if she went back, she'd just come home with more dogs. So she decided not to go back.
story of my life stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
Came home
Wow.
with a pack.
Yep.
that's awesome.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Because now I'm imagining her with Harold and like a pack of wild dogs in the backyard.
Yes.
Aw.
They had like a little farmland, so there was plenty of room for all the dogs to run around.
Aw.
All right, I'm gonna we're gonna go around on this one,
Mhm.
but from Kaleki Redbeard, what side of each of your characters do you love the most and help you create the story, or your story? So what side of your character do you love the most as it applies to their story? So I think we can each explain whether that means that we appreciate that in real life or if we appreciate what it means for the story. So you can define that as you will. Anybody
go
want to volunteer? Okay.
I will volunteer to go first. Neb's fearlessness, I think, is the thing, because it can literally help drive the story sometimes, of just like, all right, Neb's gonna go do the thing. But also, like, that is so much a part of her actual story of finding something that she is driven by. Having that passion of wanting to do a thing, wanting to learn more about a thing, is something 13 days old for her. So I think that's been the most fun. It has presented a few challenges of trying to not be the person that runs away or runs off, away from everybody. Keeping her contained a little bit is sometimes hard, but that's half the fun.
That
Who
is
wants to jump in?
canon.
I'll jump in. As counterintuitive as this sounds, I think one of my favorite things about Maeve is her vulnerability, because so much of her personality is built on trying to hide it and cover it up, that when there are opportunities for it to come through, that's exciting to me. And I think that the potential for her growth comes from that vulnerability. So yeah, I think that's one of the things I really love about Maeve. And vulnerability can be feisty, and it can be clever and witty and sarcastic.
I love Maeve's sarcasm.
I do too. It's really fun. I love that Maeve's really direct about things, because I'm not. But yeah, I think that's something I really love about her that I didn't expect to be so much of who she is.
I'll say for Robin, my favorite thing about her is just her experience. I know, cliche, but the fact that Deborah has allowed me to, because my character has had all this experience in life, to have more advantage, or well, Robin knows how to do this, so she can teach people. And I think it's been really helpful in the game that she's allowed to sometimes not need a role just because it's in my backstory that I have all this experience, which I think is very sweet. So I just think like having all that experience and being able to use it has been the most fun.
That's true. I didn't even think of that. Like, she always says, well, you're right. It makes sense. She's around. How old is Robin? I don't know. But it makes
80.
sense that she has all this experience in different things. By the time you get that age, you know more. So we're able to apply it to the group. So it just helps us, As far as Fairuza goes, it is having a character who is so internally strong, or has, done all this schooling in Harvard to make herself so, internally, to make her such a strong, smart, convincing, persuasive person, to find out that like she has this external strength too. That's so fun for me, because it was hard for me to not be a barbarian that smashes for a while. And it just make it be like, okay, here's the act, especially in the beginning. But now she's more wanting to flex it. And that's just so much fun, because it's very much how I've been in my life. And I usually do not like putting my own self personally in in characters. I'd want to play someone completely. Fairuza is definitely not personality me. She's personality my younger sister. But that part of the, oh, wow, you know, the internal and the external strength, they come together and they create who you are. That's me. So I like it. It's fun.
Is that me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I was just making sure I was the only one left. So I think for me, and I'm going to use this because I got to read ahead some of the questions here. I'm going to use this to springboard into kind of going back around the virtual room here into another question. So I'll answer this one and transition at the same time answering this next one, which is from K Clark 1701. Lauren, how much of Neb is really Lauren? And I would love to open that up to everybody, actually. Like, how much is, you know, Maeve, Jen, you know, Miss Robin Hope, you know, all those things.
I totally thought for a second you were going to be like, I would like everybody to answer how much of Neb is Lauren.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right.
It's like, this is turning into a roast. Neb is so unconscious that
I'll do it.
Lauren is so squishy.
Overall,
She licks things.
No,
she
the
shouldn't lick.
reality is everything that you love about Neb is the stuff that's wonderful about Lauren.
Yeah.
Like,
wait. I did not mean for this to turn
Loving.
into like a praise. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But thank you.
Yeah. So first of all, the you know, the side of Silas that I appreciate the most is probably passion. I just like passion, and passion allows for one of my favorite things that I've seen in stories out there, which is failure and learning from that and picking up, and you know, because it, you know, ultimately if you're really passionate about something and you want something to happen you know, badly, you're willing to keep going even when all those things happen. And so I certainly like the passion part of Silas. And I would say as my incredibly smooth segue here is that you know, I think that the passion part, like my life as Adam is very defined by, you know, the various passions that I have out there, whether that's, you know, my family or all the stuff you see behind me. It's not about the stuff, it's about what that stuff represents to me and what it's meant to me over the years and the stories that it represents. And so I think that, you know, passion is one of the most if I had to boil down, like, you know, Conan style, what is best in life, you know, or whatever. It would not be the lamentations of anybody. For me, it would be the just, you know, the passion and finding passions that you have and being willing to just dive into those passions. And if you're able to do that, you know, from my perspective, you've got it pretty good and you're living a pretty great life. And so yeah, I think that's the part that probably shines through of my personal self into Silas the most. But you know, other than that, Silas definitely does a lot of things that Adam would never do. So I want to make that part clear. But definitely the passion part is something I appreciate. So we can go back around, whoever wants to talk about how much of yourself is in your character.
Oh, but I have a question for you, Adam. Are you really that into basketball in real life?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So there were a couple of things that I knew with Silas that I had to know some things about them in real life, or otherwise it would just ring incredibly inauthentic. And you know, and so yeah, basketball and Michael Jordan, very much so, like you know, very much so on the basketball side, and then naturally you know, comics, superheroes, and I think, you know, maybe one of my favorite things after all these years and the number of scions and psychic warriors that I've played over the years and all these other kind of things, telekinesis being my absolute favorite thing, you know, favorite superpower by far, you know, all that, being able to see even where, you know, 5e's gotten with some of the stuff that 5e allows for when it comes to that. It's been really exciting to have that opportunity to play that out in something other than a one shot. and stuff. And so yeah, that part. But yeah, knowing about superheroes and knowing about basketball, I knew I was going to be leaning into a couple of things really hard, and so it had to be something that I had some kind of background in. Because, for instance, if Silas had been very passionate about trains or about how submarines work, or about how boats work, or whatever else, we would have been in a lot of trouble with this character. Because he's more of a land thief.
I'll go. I think it comes back to the experience thing. Growing up, I did everything. I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I became this Jill of all trade, but a master of none. And that always really bothered me, and it really sits with me even to this day, where I'm like, oh, I did this for a little while and I did that, but I never found my place in the world where I could sit and just master something. And I absolutely hate that. And I still hate it to this day. So when making Robin and actually spinning that Jill of all trades, master of none into a positive, I've kind of been able to deal with those feelings and kind of make it like, well, she's this wonderful character who has had all this life experience. She hasn't, and that's why you'll see with her jobs, she was never a doctor, or she was like a veterinary assistant, or she was a dental assistant, or it's like one of those jobs that you can just jump into for a little while, or just do a little bit of training for, or whatever it may be. But just so she could have this huge range of things. I think that's kind of what I've pulled into this character, is just trying to turn that negative that I see as a positive, which it is.
I love that. I didn't know that. It's a beautiful story, actually.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do Fairuza again. Like I said, Fairuza's personality 100% is my sister, who I lost in 2018. So like, she was Ivy League, law school. She was definitely more matter of fact. So it was always where I would always be like, oh my God, what's going on? Blah. And she'd be like, are you being an idiot again? That was just her personality. And she was definitely more dry humor. She was oftentimes like, why are you doing that? What's wrong now? Like, that was always her response to me. I was definitely the more like playful, silly sort of sister. So Fairuza is a sort of like a love letter to my sister, as well as a few other things. But otherwise, the only thing that Fairuza has that is me is that she's a lot of my favorite superheroes rolled into one. So we have Storm, we have She-Hulk. That's all otherwise.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next, since I think the thing that Neb and I have in common the most is the desire to work with people, be around people, be social. Like, we both want to hear everybody's stories, help each other out, that kind of thing. We're both kind of group project people, I guess you could say. Yeah, she enjoys that, and that's one of the few things before getting on the train that she kind of had a little bit of a drive for, is listening to other people, learning any stories or information that they had to tell, helping them, that kind of thing. So I think that we both share.
Maeve, I think, for me, is an exploration of a lot of things about myself. I think in a lot of ways, Maeve is like, there are a lot of things that I'm trying to find in myself that Maeve does. With the caveat that Maeve doesn't do them in a very healthy way. But I think a lot of the ideas behind Maeve have to do with not caring what people think, and being direct, and being, there are some things that are sort of long-term Maeve directions that I think will become more clear over time. So I'm not going to get too much into that, but I think a lot of Maeve was about casting off societal expectations about what particularly young women should be and how they should behave, how they should look, how they should act. And so I think for me, the idea of being able to play a character that, because as Jen, I care a lot about those things, and those things have very much shaped me. And part of what I've been trying to do in my life is not care as much. So I think I feel like more than anything, Maeve is like things I would like to learn in a lot of ways. So that's some of it. But the puns and the sarcasm are me. That's me. And the puzzles are I had to build Maeve. As I was building her, I knew I had to build a high enough intelligence that she could solve puzzles, because I cannot help myself. It is a reflex, and I can't stop it.
And bless you for it. And bless you for it. As someone who is playing a character who has a high intelligence, and I'm not that. I'm certainly not that. I love learning about, because I think we all have bits of us in all of our characters. And also there's bits of our characters that we want in us. And
Yes.
the longer you play a character, I think the more commonalities you find of like, oh, this is something, maybe I didn't even think about it at first when I built this character, started playing this character, but now they do this, and that's something I would do. And then a lot of it is, oh, they do this, and I kind of wish I could do that or be better at that. Or I wish I could do that, but just not in that way. So even some of the characters that I think are the furthest from me that I've played, there's still hints of something that I can identify with. It might not happen until after I've played them,
because it comes through the lens of your brain and your body, and that's so you can only be that character through yourself and through your own imagination.
Yeah.
Like, you can't kind of reach into the ether or someone else's brain and go through their version of that character. It always will be some sort of representation of you, because you're taking in the information and imagining the world and responding to it. So any character you play has some reflection of yourself, just because it's coming out of your own brain and your own voice.
Yeah. And especially with this being a medium that is all about improv and working with.
There is no script that you can fall back on. Yeah.
So I think a lot of the time, at least for me, sometimes what I fall back on is, for a second, this is what Lauren would think about saying. If Neb is in that moment of, she's got a couple of different options of what to say. Sometimes it just is the thing that Lauren would also say, because it's improv. And so there's more of a chance that that's going to come out.
Well, and I think one of the ways, especially because, this is an entirely other, stream that we would have to host to talk about this. So I don't really want to open this can, but I'm going to just briefly mention that playing a live series like this for an audience is different. I mean, it is different than playing a home game. And again, that's not good, bad, and like it's what you do with it, how much you enjoy it, how much people watching enjoy it, all those things. But one of the things that I will say, even with Silas is, it's filtered through the lens of my brain, which is a great way to put it. But so much of that being able to show growth is it was actually really hard for me early on to like have a stray thought flash across my brain and be like, all right, I want this guy to not be so likable at this point in time. And I'm going to go ahead and say this that just flashed across my brain. Whereas like in real life, there's no way I would say that. A filter, scruples would kick in or something, you know? And so, so it's like, we're not going to do that. And so then like a gradual relaxing of that intentionality to like make sure that I'm letting things through the filter way more, you know, and so I think that, you know, those kinds of things can help us, you know, through the performance aspect of it, like actually be able to demonstrate growth throughout the story that we're telling together and everything. So I do think it's really fascinating where, you know, a method actor can, you know, Gary Oldman can come in and become a chameleon in a role. At the end of the day, though, like he's being written a certain way and he's able to come back to, hey, they are writing this character this way. And we don't have that luxury in the moment when something happens right in front of us. So, yeah. Very
you
cool.
don't have a chance to edit your dialogue.
Yeah.
You don't have a chance to stop and go back and go, I wonder what the localized phrase for that is, or let's do another take on that. You know, when you're playing live, you're responding and reacting, and it is what it is. And you just have to kind of be in it as best you can.
I loved this question here, Jen, and this is aimed at you. Bookish Oddish asked, Jen, is the third extension that makes the terrain easier something in the front like a freewheel, or something that goes in the back like a smart drive power assist?
So what I was imagining, that's an awesome question, Bookish. So for people who don't have a lot of familiarity with wheelchairs, a smart drive is a power assist that helps you. It basically turns your manual wheelchair into a quasi-electric chair and helps your pushes push further. And when you add a freewheel, it goes in the front and helps you with more difficult terrain. So they have different functions. But what I was imagining for the forest ground was more of a freewheel. Because of the terrain we're on. In other situations that might change, but in this particular case, we've got bumpy forest terrain, and so something that was would make that easier was what I went with.
I also love the way that you described that when it appeared, when we started going down the swath of like, and it just appears and it looks like this and this. I was like, that's super cool. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I want that Swiss Army knife that she had.
Very useful.
You know, as a maker, I really want it.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one of the reflavorings I played with. That I just took something that was part of my character and decided to reflavor it specifically for Maeve.
I love that you call yourself a maker, Alicia. Because I want to be certain everyone out there knows that I'm not saying that with any sarcasm. Like I'm saying, I really like that it's maker. So we got a question here that is K Clark 1701. Alicia, I see several cosplay costumes behind you. How many do you have? We've actually got that question in here a couple of times. I saw.
Oh, wait, how many
costumes do you have? Yeah.
Okay, just to give you an idea, I have 7 mannequins right here in this room, and they all have a different costume pieces on them. But I have multiple tubs in another room that are cataloged with different costumes, depending on like if it's a video game, comic book, anime, pop culture, they're categorized that way. But oof, lordy, oh boy. There's definitely over 100 costumes in here. There's definitely over 100 costumes.
I mean, how many do you think you've made in your life?
Yeah, over 100. Yeah, definitely. Because when you think, because there are costumes that are armored, you know, like, and then there are costumes that are sewn, and then there are costumes that are styled, which are usually the D&D costumes, the ones you style, because they're things that exist and you're sort of putting it together for your look. But the armored ones, there's definitely less of those just because of space. Like I fear for the moment I decided to move out of LA and I'm actually able to have like much more space because it's going to be obnoxious.
Just gonna have a warehouse.
I'm building
Yeah.
a doom hammer.
I've got to I've got to ask this, and you can no comment this. So this is not coming from the list. This is Adam asking this. So I have seen Little Hatchet Guy. Is there any plan for Power of Grayskull?
Yeah.
Like, hang on, I didn't think she would answer it, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my favorite. Because
That gave me chills.
I love, there are only certain types of weapons I like to make. I do not like making guns because to me, they'll look the same. And unless they're cyberpunk, they're just really boring. So most people that get guns, they 3D print them and just paint them really epically. But I love making hammers, like big, huge, like war hammers. And I like making axes because of the scale. The scale. It's like you can just be ridiculous with it. So, and this Fairuza's axe in particular is its own thing. So
you can have multiple sizes of her. It can be like a whole family of sizes. Exactly.
Oh my God, just
Get a collapsible one.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the
Go up
Swiss
to
Army
the
knife.
wall and select ranging from like itty bitty baby size all the way up.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it.
Perfect. It's like the axe is the entire personality from here on in. I love it. Yeah.
All right, this one I am going to limit to Hope unless someone really has something they want to throw in here. But I want to hear how the game master feels about this. But from Cassie's 335, how would the COE cast survive in Misfits of Alceta, that universe, and who would make the most puns?
Wow.
Oh, wow. How would they I think Silas would definitely handle it well. I think he'd be even more excited that nightmares are coming to life, because if nightmares come to life, then maybe dreams can come to life too. And if you can dream it, you can be it. I think that Maeve would still be the pun master. I think making all the nightmare puns that you could think of. Fairuza would definitely
be a monster. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. She'd definitely have the hardest time, I think, that Fairuza, because a lot of these dream or these nightmare creatures that come to life from people's nightmares can't be destroyed by hitting them with an axe. They have to be, it's got to be like, there's got to be like super clever puzzles that have to be solved or things like that. And I think Neb would just, once again, be in a lot of danger because she'd just want to, just befriend everything and give everything the benefit of the doubt. So I think that'd be really fun, though. Thanks for the question. That was amazing.
Yeah. And I played not Silas in Misfits of Alceta, and that was I think Silas would be okay in that world, but either way, I think most of the COE cast would have some issues there. There's some real danger going on at that.
Yeah, I was not Maeve in the Misfits one too, and yeah,
and everyone still talks about it.
It was a lot of fun.
All right, I've got one that I can knock out real quick here that has now left me some here. There we go. In Dennison 08, do you guys think you'll ever have guests on the show? And I think the answer to that is certainly yes. We had our first couple of guests with our SDCC show. And this isn't really too much of a spoiler since you find out in the first, 20 seconds of the VOD when that comes. But Gabe and Michelle actually played Gloria, the train conductor, and Al. So Althea, I can't remember the other Al's full name. It was Alfred? Alfred?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Michelle played Al the Stoker, that we actually came across their scavenger hunt at one point in the episode. So yeah, the guests were great. If you haven't been able to tell, we have not come across, Silas has never, mentioned this in game at all, that we haven't come across other people that talk really very frequently
Right?
at all in the Vale. And so, I think that guests will happen at some point for sure. But generally what we try to do just, with scheduling things, even, like tonight, we just didn't have enough kind of lead time to make some changes. But if we know someone is going to miss, we try to see if we can pre-record where everybody can be there. And so often shows like this will take the opportunity when someone has to be out to bring in a guest for those episodes. But I think that if you follow along with how this story has gone, pulling in a guest and then pulling them back out pretty quickly after an episode or something is a little problematic, because I think where we find ourselves right now, we're kind of claustrophobic with being trapped in this place. And so I do think it will happen at some point, but it's probably not on the short term horizon. But it'll be fun.
We got to find out who can talk first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on that topic a little bit, we from Maverick 2, we have who's your favorite NPC thus far? And I'll kick this off. Definitely Pivam. And I'm not saying that just because Pivam has said the most out of any NPC that we had, but I thought it was just so perfect the way that he was named Bandicoot, and Silas on the Crash, and all these kind of things. Like I just thought that he feels like such a perfect addition to the story, that if I was watching this as a television show, he was just incredibly natural and organic, like as he came in. And again, I know we haven't had too many NPCs to choose from maybe yet, so it's okay if you say Pivam too. But who wants to go next?
Well,
yeah.
I'll go next because I'm in the very fortunate position in where Neb has been able to talk to a lot more people than any of you. Like I've had a range of wolves and birds and things and bugs who didn't really have too much to say. So not the most in-depth conversations, but I will say, and I'll just kind of say it as an entire group, the rats, the whole swarm of rats.
I was going to say Sebastian.
Nicholas kind of as our Nicholas as our like point rat, our point of contact rat. But in general, that whole rat party just was so much fun in a moment in where, especially with Neb really grokking onto one of the main pieces of magic that she can do in that moment with those creatures. I think she learned a bunch from them. And it was just fun to talk to them and be like, well, yeah, they're rats.
And you got to add on to that, it was how amazing it was, even though the fact that Deb wasn't expecting to have to voice all these rats.
Yes.
And she just came up with all these amazing little characters. Yes. And it's amazing.
Yeah. It was absolutely amazing. So I'm going to say the rats as a whole.
I'm going to say, hands down, Gloria, the train conductor, simply because of the way Gabe played her.
Yeah.
And I really hope
that's a little unfair because that's like NPPC, but yes, we'll allow it.
Okay. I really hope everyone gets to watch the VOD.
Watch that VOD.
It was unexpected, but so well done. So he they literally jumped in to this party, which isn't easy to do because we're super tight knit and we're all like, our characters are like a well-oiled machine at this point. So it's really intimidating to jump in a group like that. And they both just greased right in perfectly and added so much to the story. It was fun. All right. I'm going to say it. Yo, you guys, I love Ivy because when Deb first came out with her, I thought it was like a pretty like one note character. She's this like mystical woman who was like lost in a shower, but now like we found out all this lore about her. She's a ruler and she took off and all this other stuff. I'm like, what the hell is this chick doing? So it's added some like texture, like a lot of texture to her, and I find her really intriguing. So I actually look forward to 213. I don't look forward to Dude, but I do like Ivy. I like our interactions with her.
Yeah, I think for me it's the rats, but for Maeve, Steve.
Steve.
I'm sad we didn't get. I hope we get more time with Steve. I hope we're able to bring Steve back and get more time with Steve, because there's something there. And also, I mean, Pivim's great too, but I feel like there was such an interesting set of relationships that we all were building with Steve, and I'm curious about that.
Yeah, speaking of that, we have the question from Tricky Bacon. What is your plan for justice for Steve? So we'll maybe take that a little more generically. And do we as characters have a plan for Steve? And I'll maybe just say that Silas, I guess that was last episode. It feels like a long time ago, but last episode just briefly mentioned, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust this Ivy person anymore. Maybe we should just try to resurrect Steve and ask Steve more questions, or whatever. But outside of that, I don't think Silas has thought, clearly Silas doesn't know how to do that. But Silas would certainly be interested if, we pulled on that thread to see if there was the possibility of that. But of course, not knowing where to start.
I love how you were like, do we have a plan for Steve? Do we have a plan for anything?
Yeah.
We had a good strategy session that went nowhere in the igloo. I just wanted to point that out. But we did have a strategy session.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah.
It's interesting when you say that, because as far as Neb is concerned, justice for, like, we know who destroyed Steve. So there is actually a target for that justice, but she's not thinking about that in that way. Like, Talrin needs to be held accountable for a whole bunch of things. But if you ask Neb, the thing she wants justice for is whatever killed those wolves outside the mine. Like, she's intent on finding the creature, the being, whatever it is that did that. Because while Steve is sad and she would do whatever she could to help him, bring him back, whatever is possible in this world, he was an active participant in a way. He had consent. He had put himself into that situation. So it's sad and she's upset about it. But to her, the slaughtered wolves were collateral. Some creature just came through, and it wasn't a hunt for food. It wasn't, defending themselves. It was just these wolves, as far as she knows, got slaughtered. So when we find that creature, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Neb's reaction is. But as far as justice, that's where her justice mind is.
That's actually a really good question. Like, what is each character's short-term right now motivation? Like, what is your character?
Let's go with it. Let's go with it. What I love that question. What is on your character's mind? Let's say let's skip besides surviving a water zombie ghost attack, since we're just smack in the middle of that. Let's say past that, what is your very short-term character motivation at this point?
I can tell you mine right now, Fairuza, because of that, each of our characters had the vision of where our loved one was. I think, is Fairuza the only one with an alive person that gave her ticket? Oh no, Maeve has her friend.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
his friend.
As far as you know, alive.
Silas, sorry.
It is not going to go very well for anybody if Will is dead.
Yeah,
that's going to be bad. That's going to be a bad day for anyone within probably a 5-mile radius. Just say it.
And this is kind of touching on another question, just to call it out and recognize it in Denison 08. Do you think your loved ones are in danger somewhere?
Bruce is worried because that completely shook her. So that's what in her mind. I think I don't remember if Fairuza mentioned it in the live show in SDCC or if it was the last episode. But she did bring up like, did you guys see that? You know what I mean? She's definitely wondering because she wants to go save her.
So that's the motivation, is you want to figure out some way to get to.
That's in her head. That's in her head. Like, get out of danger for us first, and then let's like circle back to what the heck we saw in that. Is that something we're supposed to be doing? Are we supposed to go there and figure out and save them? Or because if you think about it in real life, if you imagined that, if that happens in your life, wouldn't you want to figure it out? I don't know.
I think Maeve has an interesting flip side to that, which is I think Maeve wants to find the person who is making us think our loved ones are in danger.
You know what though? Neb agrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lauren does not. Lauren is so worried about her great-grandfather. Lauren is like
Jen is
terrified.
also very concerned.
But Neb feels like that vision is someone trying to dissuade people, trying to scare us away, that there are these two opposing forces. One of them is trying to lead us on this path to saving Ivy and saving the world and all of that and discovering our powers. And the other is trying to stop us. And so she really does feel like that was a scary vision. Whether it happened or not is less important. She doesn't think it's an actively happening now thing. She thinks it's something that was thrown at her to dissuade her. So no, she's that's not like if Fairuza, if you bring it up, if
she's
someone
still
brings
alive,
it up,
hopefully.
yeah,
my character's still alive.
and part of it may be that. I know we've talked about how if you die in Éarte, there's a possibility your spirit could end up here and end up in bad situations and stuff. So she's not discounting it, but yeah, unless someone is like, I want to go save my person, she doesn't think that that's either real or is really going on right now, that's something from the past. And of course, I know how he died. But yeah, Lauren is terrified about that. To go back to that other question real quick, Neb's immediate concern, she wants to find that other shard because we have so much half information and so many guesses about things. And she really does feel like once we get this final piece, that she kind of pictures getting that final piece and all of a sudden, all the people who have been influencing, interacting, whatever, are going to show up and try to bargain because that there are people out there who have all kinds of ideas of what should happen in that moment, who we should ally with, what we should be doing. And as soon as we've got that power, they're going to show up and we can finally get some answers. So that's her immediate thing is let's finish this and we'll see what happens.
Silas is very much on that boat of just Silas thinks that Neb is naive in that way, that like that it's gonna kind of clean everything up or whatever there kind of there. And I'm obviously paraphrasing, summarizing there, but but I do think that having it gives us some form of leverage that we have not had since we've been in this place, right? And so Silas is very much like get the last shard, but the other part as far as seeing his pops there, Silas had a completely different reaction to that. And I think that it's interesting hearing everyone's reactions to it because I wonder how much of it is in Deb's description in that moment, because it's like, if you were like me anyway, I was hearing everybody have something like that described. And it was very difficult for me to focus on what was happening with you and your loved one as that was being described, because I was like, oh no, like they're about to say this for Silas, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to hear what I'm about to hear, so it was almost this like anticipatory dread or something, but in that moment, like as Deb was describing it, she gave a little look and said there was a look of like kind of like a relief or something. And like, I don't know, like Silas kind of interpreted that as like, they're going to be okay. And they think they're going to be okay because they're now seeing me or something. But for the record, Silas absolutely thinks that it's real and that they're in danger, but also that it's not like too urgent that we have to stop what we're doing right now, that this is all part of the same, path that we need to, possibly get to them. So yeah, the motivation for Silas beyond surviving whatever is happening at this lake or wherever we are is to try to find that last shard. And I will go one step further to say, try to figure out how we can secure that last shard before forces far more powerful than us take it from us and take our leverage from us. So that's Silas' short-term motivation.
Oh no.
I think Maeve wants to find someone who has another side of the story. I think that's I want to hear from someone who knows this place and has information about this place, about their side of the story, and get another dimension to that, because right now we
and
just
quite
have
literally dimension maybe because
Yeah.
it's like we're just getting like a couple of sides to it right now
Yeah,
from two different dimensions.
we don't have any real perspective on where we are, on what we're doing. We're taking people's Maeve doesn't take anything at face value, and because Maeve is so tricksy, she assumes that any situation that is remotely dangerous probably has someone pulling strings and being tricksy themselves. So really getting some perspective, and also seeing where she can pull strings and who she can play against each other, not within the group, but amongst the forces that be. I think she's itching to play some pranks, and as much peril as there is, that's one of the ways she lets off steam, and she has not had that opportunity to sort of do that.
I would also say, interject real quick with Silas, like, if what we keep like hinting at, that there's someone that is putting us through trials in order to prepare us for what's to come, whether that's Julian or whoever's doing this ridiculousness with hiding these shards. Silas is and I'll go on and freely say that Adam is having a problem with, like, wait a minute, like, you can't just, like, I've seen Rocky training montages, like, we can get prepared in another way that is different than this. Like, you can tell us what's going on first and not jerk our chain all over the place, and then we will go and we will, lift logs on our back and do our crunches and all the stuff that we need to do to prepare.
I'm not sure it's us being prepared. I wonder if someone's trying to, like, test us and see what we can do.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
I mean, why not both?
And should we be revealing everything we can do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that goes back to our strategizing session.
Keep a couple things in your pocket. Do you want to share? Do you want to show that all off? If there's ever that question. So yeah,
It'll be exciting.
That's I think where those of us, I think Silas and Maeve might have a slightly more, our cynicism might be protecting us in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Down the line, because we hold things back.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that Neb being so wanting to, it's less even wanting to trust and more, she has no, why would a rat lie? She has no reason to believe at this point that, she's, the information that we have, she believes the sources that they've come from, and that maybe there's bickering and different interpretations, but also the people that she's wanted to talk to get some of that, like we tried to talk to Tolerant, he was just like, gonna go find it.
I know, right?
Didn't want to chat at all. So
but did he say Ivy, or he just said, where is she?
Where is she? Yeah.
And are we sure she is Ivy? Like, that's one that's been in the back of my brain for the last couple of weeks.
I could have swore she said Ivy, but maybe not.
I think he said, where is she? Where did she go? I'd have to check the VOD or my notes.
I think you're right. But yeah,
Hope,
I'm
did
sure
you
that
have anything on the short-term motivation part before we kind of open that up a little bit more?
Robin just lives in the moment. I think right now her immediate thought is protect, protect, protect. With the I think as soon as we lost the train, that was kind of an awakening of like, oh my God, this is not good. So she's kind of just into that quote quote mother mode of like, what can I do to protect? So
Yeah.
All right,
That makes
let's see. Let's do a few more. We had planned to do about an hour here tonight, but obviously we're a little past this. But we'll do a couple more here, and let me pick. Let's see. I think we've answered that one already. See, that's the other thing is by the time we get this deep in, we have already answered like several of these that come in
Right.
by answering the other one. So I'm trying to sift through a little bit, but let's do this one and maybe make this one another round robin, and we can spend a little bit of time here. But in Denison 08, how did each of you come up with your characters? I know we've talked about this in the past more in depth, but maybe briefly, were they inspired by anyone or anything? And I can start with Silas, and I think that the big shtick with Silas from the first conversations with Deborah was we're going to have people from our real world, and we're going to get them into this fantastical world. And of course, I didn't know any of the details of how that was going to happen, what it was going to feel like or look like, but it was let's basically kind of formalize all of the in joking that happens like at a home table. Because it's like if you've played at home tables, there's some kind of joke and somebody does something. And even if it's the most badass thing you've ever seen in one of these games, somebody immediately goes to, a John McClane quote or something, from back, so it's like, it's just always something like that. Because, again, we're all playing a game and that's great. And most of the time that's very, very fun to do that. But this Éarte world in this universe is a place where all of that is perfectly valid and plays completely straight in a universe like this, because we're from the place where Die Hard was a real thing, and so I think that for Silas it was want to make sure that we have a character that is really into those things and can make those break the fourth wall, but not really break the fourth wall in that way. And so that was a big part of the inspiration to start with. And then I would say that there's a little bit of Star-Lord in there, but probably more Scott Lang, Ant-Man, kind of feel to that with the thievery and all of those things. And then probably the whole getting in over your head, like like Jesse in Breaking Bad or something. There's definitely a feel of that to his backstory as well.
For Maeve, I had a very specific piece of mythology that inspired Maeve, and almost everything. Maybe not almost everything about her, but a substantial part of who Maeve is, of her backstory, of her, everything came from that specific piece of mythology, which I think people might be able to guess if you have paid close attention, but I also don't want to be too explicit on that yet, because it's still unfolding. But that was the biggest piece for her, and also that exploration of casting off expectations and norms, and what happens when you go into the woods and there are no rules.
You know what I love about superheroes? Is that they well, growing up I always felt this, is that superheroes aren't interesting if they're just all powerful and can do everything, and that's just it. What makes them interesting is that they're all have flaws, or they have things that can break them, or things that like can end their powers, and they know it, and they kind of just work around it. Or if something happens to them, they just sort of bounce back, like in a really amazing way. And I honestly, I wanted to play a character like that. I wanted to be able to group my favorite parts of my favorite heroes, and that's why Fairuza, even though she's really strong and she's really smart, she literally is a fish out of water. She may have everything in line on Earth, but where she is in the Vale, and now all the superpowers that she had on Earth, they don't really work here. So she's had to develop others. So I kind of wanted to do something with that, and Deb was okay with it. So
Yeah, for Robin, I'll keep it vague because so many things went into the character design. But whether it come from my great aunt who is 84 years old and she's still playing pickleball and tennis and stuff like that. She still gets around, and she denies her age. She refuses to give up, kind of thing. Or inspired by my mother, who was a Jill of all trades. She knows something about everything. She's had so many experiences and so many jobs in her life that she's always someone you can go to with the most random questions, and she'll know. All the way to just wanting to represent elderly in a good light, and I think those are the basic things. Yeah.
For Neb, there were two main things. Story-wise, I really wanted to create a character that did not have a tragic backstory. I wanted to do
I love that.
This is a well-rounded person with a family who loves them, who had whatever they needed, not just to survive, but to thrive, who had supportive in everything. So having a happy backstory and then figuring out, well, okay, the corollary to that is, why would you leave? What is the reason you leave? If your home life, if everything that you've known is good, there's got to be other reasons besides the tragic backstory cliches that we've heard of. So what is that reason, and why does she pursue that? So that became kind of the main focus for me for her character, for her personality, and for a lot of the stuff that she ended up becoming mechanically as well were things that tied into why would she be comfortable ending up in the Vale and going, I love my family, I will miss them and they will miss me, but I'm okay with not going back, even though they're wonderful, lovely. And then mechanically, there was just what haven't I done before in a long-term stream, and what have I done before in a long-term stream, and trying to figure out, okay, what things do I not want to do anymore because I just did them, and what things haven't I done in a while and so I want to try to. So it's kind of a mixture of those two things.
I love it. All right. Is that everybody? I want to make sure. Okay. So last question. We're going to end with this one because I definitely like this one. And this is from Fallen Angel Ridian. If you could have taken one personal thing from the broken train, what would it be?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Okay, go ahead. Hope.
Oh, I know.
Picture of Harold. Her last big picture of Harold.
Can that be Neb's answer too? I have no idea. That broke my heart. That I could not come up with a way that Neb would know that picture was like, and in the moment and everything, I was just like, oh shit. Oh, this sucks. But you describing it when Deb was like, okay, so what's in the trunk? And you were like, da, 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 da. And then this picture of Harold. I was like,
oh man, no. That's why we're trying to delude ourselves into thinking the train's gonna come back.
Robin still believes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who wants to go next? I can go while you're thinking. So it seems like for Silas, it would be a pretty simple thing that, his autographed Michael Jordan basketball that was still in the case, and it's, you know, just deflated and crushed and worthless now down there. Or, you know, the few comics that he brought with him, you know, Saga Volume, 9 that he's not going to be able to finish, you know, those kind of things that I think even remarked about in the show. But I will go ahead and say, since it's probably not going to, come up directly, Silas had a second, not a green glowing ring, but a second ring that he took with him, everywhere that he traveled. That was actually an engagement ring at some point, was its intended purpose, and it is now at the bottom of whatever this avalanche thing is, and he does not have it any longer.
Ooh.
Oh no.
And Silas has bunches of money, so it was a nice one.
It's bunches of money. I like, I forgot to mention that you finally told us or gave us some insight into why Silas likes towels. Like, we didn't know. I really didn't know until you told us that.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Okay, Fairuza, there's a thing. When she graduated from law school, her parents gave her this, official gavel, and she had it with her, the first. I think we mentioned it on the first or second episode that she had a gavel on her nightstand, but I didn't really want to mention that as a thing she's going to miss because it's sort of written into things coming in the future. Yeah, so it's not necessarily gone because of what it is, but it'll explain itself in the future. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, right now Fairuza is thinking, well, in her mind she's thinking, my gavel's down there, but it has a connection to something else that, I best forget it. That's it.
Mine, I don't feel like I have one that's really thoughtful like everybody else.
If it helps you, Jen, I'm going to be with you. So if it helps.
Yeah, I think Maeve probably would have stolen the dirty magazines from under the bed or something like that. Because anything that she could use to be just to, again, the way Maeve kind of gets rid of anxiety is to be cynical, prank people, set people up.
Provocative.
Provocative. And so things that she could use for those purposes.
I mean, Silas can create things out of thin air, at least temporarily. So if you ever need a fix on anything, then let him know.
Maeve has some abilities that have not had a chance to show off yet, that I think are going to be, I think will be more useful if we're around people and need certain things. But yeah, I think it would probably be something in that vein that would be the kind of thing that you could plant to get someone else in trouble.
There's nothing on the train that is personal to Neb that she would want. The one thing that she needs, she has with her, or she can always find if she needs to. There's other stuff on the train that, if you asked her now, pieces of Steve or, other things. But as far as her personal effects, there's not anything really. That being said, when her phone got destroyed in the mine, that upset her, not because of anything else mechanically that we're using with the phones, but I think a lot of us, there's just a ton of pictures on there of loved ones and friends and family. And while once again she feels comfortable adventuring out and going out into the world and possibly not seeing these people ever again, she would have really liked to still be able to pull them up on her phone and flip through some pictures.
Yeah, does anybody have a phone left?
I do.
Okay. So is Maeve the only one that has a phone left?
Robin has her Nokia brick.
Yeah, nice. Fairuza, doesn't Fairuza have the other one? Because I know we
She had a business phone and then
just Silas is missing a phone now?
Well, Neb is missing a phone. So
okay.
And
Yeah.
Fairuza lost a phone, one of two.
That was
Wow,
or
she's got a
the bottom
burner.
of the thing. Yeah.
Mysterious.
A business burner.
All right.
That's literally been burned.
Yeah.
All right, we'll wrap it there. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's been a blast. Thank you for the thoughtful questions. It is so rewarding to be able to be part of a collaborative story like this, and for you to be able to participate out there and again ask the questions. We see all of those things out there throughout the week. It brings a smile to the face. So thank you so much for sticking with us through all of the ups and downs that have happened so far in 52 episodes or 51, however many it has been. We've got a new one that is coming back next week, and really looking forward to seeing what happens in the Battle of the Lake as we are in some really deep water coming up here. But join us next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And again, thanks so much for being fans out there. And remember that this life right here is an off the hook fairy tale. Later.
Craziness.
Bye.